The message arrived on every communication device on Earth simultaneously, from the most advanced quantum computers to ancient radio receivers that should have been in museums. The same transmission overrode all signals. Even devices that weren't turned on flickered to life. The message was elegant in its simplicity, yet devastating in its implications. The galactic ascension contest begins in one standard orbital cycle. The victorious civilization shall be granted dominion over all stars. Prepare your champions. Nobody knew who sent it. The origin point couldn't be traced. But telescopes across the planet confirmed something unprecedented. Similar transmissions were being received by 12 other star systems, each home to an advanced civilization that humanity had yet to encounter. Earth's governments descended into chaos. Religious leaders proclaimed the end times. Scientists worked frantically to understand the message's implications. Military commanders scrambled to prepare defenses against potential invasions. But as the initial panic subsided, one question rose above all others. What exactly was this galactic ascension contest? The answer came 3 days later, when a small probe appeared in Earth's orbit. It projected a holographic display visible from the surface, detailed rules of the contest, along with profiles of the 12 other competing civilizations. The information was staggering. Some species had been spacefaring for thousands of years. Others possessed technologies that seemed like magic. All had achievements that made humanity's greatest accomplishments look like a child's finger paintings. The rules were simple, yet daunting. Each civilization would select 3 champions to represent them in a series of trials testing intelligence, adaptability, courage, and other traits deemed worthy of galactic leadership. The winners would ascend to a position of cosmic authority, guiding the development of all sentient life in the galaxy. The losers would not be exterminated. The contest organizers, who refer to themselves only as the architects, considered that wasteful. But the losing civilizations would be consigned to permanent subordinate status, their development constrained, their ambitions forever curtailed. Humanity had 1 Earth year to select its champions. Commander Elena Reyes stared at the holographic display, watching as it cycled through images of the alien competitors. Some resembled insects, others were vaporous clouds of particles. One appeared to be a collective of crystalline structures that communicated through light pulses. "They're also advanced," she murmured, zooming in on a species that had apparently evolved to survive in the vacuum of space. "What chance do we possibly have?" Dr. Wei Chun, head of a newly formed human selection committee, sighed heavily. "Very little, if we are being realistic. The Dravicans have been interstellar travelers for 8,000 years. The more collectively share a neural network across their entire species. And the Zorn." He gestured to an image of what looked like a swarm of metallic orbs. "They have partially merged with artificial intelligence." Elena turned away from the display, facing the 25 other members of the committee. Brilliant scientists, military strategists, philosophers, and political leaders from around the world hastily assembled to determine humanity's fate. "Then why bother competing at all?" Elena asked, voicing what many were thinking. "If we are so outmatched, why not just accept our fate now?" The room fell silent until Abayomi Okafor, a Nigerian theoretical physicist, spoke up. "Because that's not what humans do," he said simply. "We have always faced impossible odds. From surviving ice ages with stone tools to curing diseases that once decimated our populations. Our entire history is a testament to achieving what seemed impossible. Besides," added Gabriela Diaz, a neuroscientist from Argentina, "the rules don't specify that we need to select the most technologically advanced champions. They mention intelligence, yes, but also adaptability, courage, creativity. Traits humans have in abundance." Elena nodded slowly. "So we don't try to beat them at their own game." "Exactly," Wei confirmed. "We need to identify what makes humans unique, what gives us an edge these other species might not possess." For weeks, the committee debated. They analyzed human history, psychology, biology, and culture. They reviewed the limited information provided about the other competitors. They considered thousands of potential champions, from Nobel laureates to special forces operatives, from artists to philosophers that, in the end, they selected 3 individuals who they believed embodied the best of humanity's potential. Dr. Sanjay Kapoor, a brilliant systems engineer whose work on adaptive algorithms had revolutionized artificial intelligence. Maya Okonkwo, an astronaut and exobiologist known for her unparalleled adaptability in extreme environments. And, most controversially, Jin Lee, a 19-year-old game designer whose virtual reality simulations displayed an uncanny creativity that bordered on prescience. Not everyone agreed with the selections. Military leaders argued for combat specialists. Religious figures lobbied for spiritual representatives. But time was running out, and decisions had to be made. 1 year after the initial message, a sleek, silvery vessel descended from the skies to collect Earth's champions. As they boarded, billions watched via worldwide broadcast, their collective future now resting in the hands of 3 individuals who carried the weight of an entire species on their shoulders. The journey to the contest arena took 3 weeks, though it spanned a distance of thousands of light years. The ship, controlled by an unseen intelligence, traveled through what Sanjay theorized were artificially generated wormholes. During transit, the 3 human champions had ample time to contemplate what awaited them. They had been provided with modest quarters and a common area where they spent most of their time, preparing as best they could without knowing the specific challenges ahead. "What do you think they want?" Maya asked one evening, after they had exhausted their daily training regimen. At 42, she was the oldest of the 3, with streaks of silver in her dark hair and laugh lines that deepened when she smiled. "These architects, why stage this contest at all?" Jean, who had been manipulating virtual patterns in the air with his fingers, looked up. Despite his youth, or perhaps because of it, he often made the most insightful observations. Entertainment, maybe? Or perhaps it's a test, a way of identifying which species deserves to advance further. Or it could be something more pragmatic, Sanjay suggested. His voice was always calm, methodical, much like his approach to problems. Maybe they need new perspectives to solve some crisis we don't yet understand. "Whatever it is," Maya said, "we need to be ready for anything. The fate of Earth depends on it." The ship finally emerged from its final spatial jump into a region of space unlike anything they had ever seen. A massive structure floated before them, a sphere the size of Earth's moon, composed of interlocking geometric shapes that shifted and reconfigured continuously. Around it orbited 13 smaller vessels, presumably carrying the champions of the other competing civilizations, and a voice resonated in their minds rather than their ears. "Champions of Earth, welcome to the Nexus. The Galactic Ascension contest begins tomorrow. Rest well." That night, none of them slept much. They were too busy staring out the viewport at the impossible structure that would be the arena for humanity's greatest challenge. The first trial began without ceremony. The 3 humans found themselves transported into individual chambers within the Nexus, each facing a different challenge designed to test their intelligence and problem-solving abilities. Sanjay stood before what appeared to be a 3-dimensional puzzle composed of shifting energy fields. Instructions filtered into his consciousness. He needed to rearrange the fields to create a stable pattern that could channel a specific frequency of radiation. The puzzle constantly changed, adapting to his solutions, growing more complex with each success that he worked methodically, drawing on his experience with complex systems. Hours passed as he navigated increasingly difficult configurations. Just when he thought he had mastered the pattern, it would transform again, requiring a completely new approach. Elsewhere in the Nexus, Maya faced a biological challenge. She was presented with a series of alien ecosystems on the verge of collapse and tasked with identifying the critical factors needed to restore balance. Each ecosystem operated on different principles. Some used ammonia instead of water. Others functioned in extreme pressure or zero gravity. Drawing on her exobiology training, Maya analyzed the interdependencies between species, energy flows, and environmental conditions. She made mistakes, corrected course, and gradually developed a systematic approach to restoring equilibrium across vastly different biological paradigms. Meanwhile, Jean confronted a scenario that seemed pulled directly from one of his games, a virtual civilization simulation where he needed to guide a society through various crises without allowing it to collapse. The simulation accelerated time, allowing him to witness the consequences of his decisions play out over centuries in just minutes. He quickly realized that conventional approaches often led to disaster. Success required unconventional thinking, sometimes allowing smaller crises to unfold in order to prevent larger catastrophes. His experience creating complex game worlds served him well as he navigated the simulation's intricate cause and effect relationships. When the first trial concluded, the three humans were reunited in a central chamber along with the champions from the other 12 civilizations. A massive holographic display showed their rankings. Earth's team had placed 7th out of 13. Not terrible, Maya whispered, but not good enough either. Sanjay studied the leaders. The insectoid Dravicans and the crystalline Vox had tied for first place. They have had millennia more experience with advanced concepts, he noted. The fact that we are not last is actually remarkable. Jin nodded thoughtfully. And we are learning. That's our advantage. We're used to being the underdogs. The next trial will be different. The second trial tested physical adaptability and courage. The champions were transported to a series of environments designed to push the limits of their biological capabilities. For the humans, this seemed like a disadvantage. Many competing species had evolved in far more extreme conditions than Earth offered. The more could survive in temperatures approaching absolute zero. The Zarn's partially synthetic bodies could withstand radiation levels that would instantly kill a human. Yet as the trial progressed, humanity's champions revealed an unexpected strength. Their remarkable psychological resilience when facing the unknown. Maya excelled in this challenge. When placed in a chamber that randomly altered its gravitational orientation, she quickly adapted her movements while many competitors became disoriented or paralyzed with fear. When toxic compounds filled the air, she remembered her training for ammonia leaks on space stations and fashioned a makeshift filter from available materials. Sanjay, despite lacking Maya's physical conditioning, contributed by analyzing patterns in the environmental changes and predicting shifts before they occurred. This allowed the team to prepare rather than merely react. Jun, the youngest and least experienced, initially struggled. But when faced with a particularly harrowing scenario, a rapidly flooding chamber with seemingly no escape, he displayed the creative thinking that had earned him his place on the team. Rather than fighting the rising liquid, he used its properties to create a pressure differential that forced open a hidden exit panel. That'd be why the end of the second trial. Earth had moved up to 5th place. The gap between them and the leaders had narrowed significantly. The Dravicans still led, but the Vox had fallen to 3rd, replaced by the vaporous Ethi who excelled in physical adaptation. We are getting better, Sanjay observed as they rested before the final trial. They're still ahead, but they are not adapting as quickly as we are. It's because they are too specialized, Maya suggested. The Dravicans have incredible hive coordination, but when separated from their queen, the individual members struggle. The Ethi can transform their physical state, but their decision-making is slow. Jun, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke up. I have been watching them all. Every species has optimized for their own evolutionary path. They have perfected certain approaches over thousands of years, which means they are set in their ways, Sanjay concluded. They rely on strategies that have worked for them throughout their history. Exactly, Jin said. But humans, we have always been generalists. We are not the strongest or the fastest or even the smartest in any single category. But we are incredibly flexible. We try things that shouldn't work. Sometimes we fail spectacularly, and sometimes we succeed against all odds, Maya finished, a smile spreading across her face. That's how we will win the final trial. We won't try to beat them at their strengths. We will force them to compete on terrain where adaptability itself is the ultimate advantage. The final trial was different from the others. All 39 champions, 3 from each of the 13 civilizations, were brought together in an enormous spherical chamber. At the center floated a pulsating orb of energy that shifted through colors and patterns too complex for the human eye to fully process. The architect's message resonated in their minds. The final trial tests your species' capacity for cooperation, empathy, and collective wisdom. You must collaborate to stabilize the Nexus core before you. Failure will result in the elimination of all competitors. The implications were clear. This was no longer a competition between civilizations, but a test of whether they could work together despite their differences. The core's instability was increasing rapidly. They had limited time to act. Immediately, the The Dravican champions attempted to establish control, their hive mind approach automatically assuming leadership. The Vox countered with their own plan, their crystalline bodies resonating in patterns that projected complex mathematical models. Soon, multiple factions formed, each convinced their approach was correct. The human champions observed this chaos, exchanging glances. They recognized the pattern. It was similar to international conflicts they'd witnessed on Earth, where competing interests prevented cooperation even in the face of global threats. "We need to understand the core first," Sanjay said quietly to his teammates. "Everyone's proposing solutions before they comprehend the problem." Maya nodded. "And we need to find a way to get everyone working together instead of competing." Jin studied the core intently. "It's responding to them, to us. See how it pulses when different groups argue? I think it's a reflection of our collective state." With this insight, the humans developed a strategy. Instead of proposing their own solution, they began moving between the various factions, listening to each approach and identifying common elements. They became translators and mediators, helping bridge the communication gaps between radically different species. Sanjay used his system's expertise to create a unified model that incorporated elements from multiple approaches. Maya drew on her experience with complex ecosystems to help competitors understand how their actions affected the core's stability. Jun, with his gift for visualization, created a representation that allowed all species, regardless of their sensory apparatus, to perceive the core's reactions to their efforts. Progress was slow and fraught with setbacks. Several times, the core's instability reached critical levels, threatening to collapse. But gradually, a collaborative approach emerged. The Dravicans provided coordination. The Vox contributed precise calculations. The Ethi, with their fluid forms, could interact directly with the core's energy fields. Each species, guided by the human's framework, contributed their unique strengths. Hours passed in intense cooperation. The core began to stabilize, its wild fluctuations smoothing into regular pulses. Just as success seemed within reach, a new crisis emerged. The core suddenly expanded, emitting tendrils of energy that reached toward each champion. "It's testing us individually now," Maya realized. "It wants to know if we truly understand." The tendrils connected to each champion's mind, creating a shared consciousness, a momentary merging of perspectives across species. For a few breathtaking seconds, the humans experienced existence through the perceptions of beings utterly unlike themselves. They felt the Dravican's collective consciousness, the Vox's perception of reality as mathematical patterns, the Ethi's existence as both particle and wave. In turn, the other species experienced human consciousness. Our individual perspectives, our emotional depth, our capacity for both selfishness and profound altruism, our ability to hold contradictory ideas simultaneously, our creativity born from limitation. When the connection broke, the core had stabilized completely, pulsing with a steady, harmonious rhythm. The trial was over. The architects manifested as 3 columns of light in the central chamber where all champions had gathered to learn the contest's outcome. Their voices resonated with ancient wisdom and power. The Galactic Ascension Contest is concluded. We have observed, measured, and evaluated all participating civilizations across multiple dimensions of potential. A tense silence fell over the assembly. The human champions stood together, exhausted but proud of how far they had come. Even if they didn't win, they had represented Earth with dignity and had grown through the experience. The Dravicans demonstrated supreme coordination and efficiency. The first architect announced. The Vox displayed unparalleled analytical precision. The Ethi showed remarkable physical adaptation. Each species was acknowledged for their strengths, their representatives standing taller with each commendation. Finally, attention turned to the humans. Humanity, the second architect continued, presented us with a paradox. By objective measures of advancement, they lagged behind most competitors. Their technology is primitive, their biology unremarkable, their civilization young and fractured. The human champions exchanged glances but remained dignified in the face of this assessment. And yet, the third architect added, in the final trial, it was the humans who recognized the true nature of the challenge. While others sought to demonstrate superiority, humanity sought to create harmony. While others applied their strengths directly, humanity multiplied their effectiveness by enhancing the contributions of all. The chamber filled with a projection of the galaxy, stars swirling in majestic spirals. The purpose of this contest was never to identify which civilization deserves to rule over others. Such dominion is antithetical to the cosmic order we preserve. Rather, continued the first architect, we sought to identify which civilization possesses the qualities needed to join us as guardians of galactic development, to help nurture the potential of all sentient life without suppressing unique evolutionary paths. The second architect's light pulsed brighter. Humanity's greatest strength is not in what you have achieved, but in how you achieve. You adapt not by changing your physical form, but by transforming your thinking. You create solutions that no single perspective could devise. You find strength in diversity rather than conformity. Therefore, the third architect concluded, the human civilization is hereby invited to ascend, not to rule over others, but to help guide all civilizations, including your own, toward their highest potential. The other 12 civilizations will continue their development according to their own paths, with humanity and the architects serving as stewards rather than rulers. Stunned silence followed this announcement. The human champions looked at each other in disbelief. They had entered the contest expecting either victory or subjugation. Instead, they were being offered a partnership in cosmic stewardship. "We accept this honor," Maya finally said, speaking for the team, "but we request that Earth be allowed time to prepare. Our civilization is still divided, still learning to cooperate across our own differences. Wisdom and recognition of limitation." The architects agreed. "You shall have 1,000 of your years to develop greater unity while maintaining your diversity. During this time, we will establish limited contact to facilitate gradual integration. When ready, humanity will join us in full capacity." As the human champions prepared to return to Earth with this unprecedented news, representatives from the other civilizations approached them. There was no resentment in their manner, only curiosity and a new respect. The lead Dravican, communicating through a series of translated clicks and pheromones, expressed what many felt. "We came to this contest believing the greatest honor was to rule. You showed us that the greater achievement is to connect. We will watch your development with interest, humans." Elena Reyes, now director of Earth's Interstellar Relations Department, stood at the United Nations podium 20 years after the contest conclusion. Behind her, a holographic display showed the progress of humanity's first extrasolar colony, established with guidance from the architects and technical assistance from the Vox and ETHI. 2 decades ago, we faced what seemed like an impossible choice: compete against far more advanced civilizations or accept permanent subordination, she told the assembly of world leaders. Instead, we discovered a third path, one that transformed not just our future, but our understanding of our place in the cosmos. She gestured to the 3 champions seated in places of honor. Sanjay, his hair now white, but his mind as sharp as ever. Maya, still physically fit well into her 60s, now heading Earth's xenobiology program. And Jun, who had used his experience to revolutionize education through immersive simulation technologies. "Our champions didn't win by being the strongest or the most advanced," Elena continued. "They won by being the most human, by bringing together diverse perspectives to create something greater than the sum of its parts." The 1,000-year preparation period granted by the architects isn't just a deadline. It's a gift. Time for us to mature as a species, to heal our divisions, to learn from our new galactic neighbors while maintaining what makes us uniquely human. She looked out at the assembled representatives of a now united Earth. "We were chosen not because we were perfect, but because we never stopped trying to be better. The stars are not our dominion to rule. They are our legacy to protect, alongside all the wondrous forms of life they nurture." As night fell over the UN headquarters, Earth's residents looked up at the stars with new understanding. The contest had been misnamed from the start. There would be no eternal rulers of the galaxy, only guardians, stewards, and eventually friends. Humanity had won not by conquering the stars, but by learning to share them.